Hey there, folks. Thanks for stopping by. My name is Margaret Pinard, and welcome to BookTube. I wanted to do a video about food and writing. When I thought about this, because Thanksgiving is such a time of cooking and family atmosphere, and I've been tweeting different food writing articles that were really amazing that I happened to look up when I was thinking about this idea at first. And so, first resource, first category is when I Googled best food writing, right? So what came up? Mae Chin, Marissa Higgins, Alicia Kennedy, Tabitha Blankenbiller, who I know, and Whitney Scher and Jenna Blum, who I know. So I'll put the links to their articles in the description. They are all intensely exploring the link between food and eating and emotion, whether that's family and the food you grew up with and sort of the judgment that leads to about yourself from others, or what you're eating, what you decide, whether it's animal products or vegan, and how that changes throughout your life and how you think about how you fit in with the world. Tabitha's book, Eats of Eden, is a progression of stories, kind of like a cookbook of recipes, and they're all really great. They're meditations about a woman's life, about her self-image, about her interactions with others, about her work frustrations, about her hopes for her writing. It's really great. So I'll put Eats of Eden down there too. The second category that I was looking at was from my Goodreads shelf. So among the books I've read, I had a big kick actually, 2010 to 2012, when I was reading all sorts of food memoirs, cookbooks, the fine line between the two when they were merged. And so I have a bookshelf on my Goodreads that is called Food Related to sort of catch all those things. I went and took a quick look to see what I could see that was like literature and not cookbooks, but also dealt with food in a significant way. And I came up with 3 interesting ones. They are Winifred Foley's Full Hearts, Empty Bellies, which is a 1930s memoir about growing up in the New Forest, or just outside in the south of England. And the food part of it is just how people with no ready money would eke by. And it's kind of like reading Depression era cookbooks where you just make, cake out of tomato can soup and like these things you would just pull together to get your caloric needs basically and survive. In London, in the city, they talk about your bread and marge. So passing from the New Forest to the next one is The Carlyles at Home by Thea Holme, and that is a Persephone book, which is a great bookstore and publisher in London. It's analyzing from the texts and other sources of the time the Carlyles, which is a famous couple in Victorian England, and how they lived in this house for a certain period of years. Basically like looking at receipts and looking at budgets and looking at what it is now as a museum, I think, and imagining what it was like to have to be the housewife and to have that relationship and to have that responsibility. They didn't have children, I think, so it's just like an interesting exploration. It includes much richer food because there were higher status level, and the woman in that time of just evolving the change of servants. Before there were no servants after World War I, but while there were still like worries about keeping a cook and a servant, etc. And then the third one is Judi Hendricks, who writes marvelous fiction. Her Bread Alone trilogy is about a baker who goes through various things in her life and deals with them in a emotionally courageous way, and just the way she describes the food and the bread and the process of cooking and all that is just, be still my heart. I really, really loved it. So those are the 3 food-related books that I would put under your nose. And then the third category, third resource I went to for food and writing was where those actually crisscross with other interests of mine. I've got a lot of interests. So travel, I have a bookmark. I just mind my bookmarks. What can I say? I have a bookmark for someone who collected and then donated this collection to a museum. And it's menus from dining cars on railways. Yeah. So 20th century, and the article discusses how it evolved into what it's like now, which is just like the airlines, just like to have come so low from being so high. It's just kind of mind-blowing. So a whole collection of railroad menus and what that says about the region they were going through, or the specialties that they had, or the pride that they took, and it's just kind of cool to see those. That's travel. We've got writing, which is the realism about food and writing. Okay, so so this one was on the History Girls blog. The History Girls blog post author says, she makes reference to Diana Wynne Jones mocking stew in fantasy novels. So whenever there's like a quest in a fantasy novel, people will stop and make camp and have stew. And it was just like, it's because of what we connect stew with, which is making do and, not having a lot of preparation, accoutrements and a kitchen and servants and everything. Stew is just very plain people food. But what you don't realize if you're not a cook is that it actually requires a lot of preparation in terms of thinking and materials, like if you have flavors, if you have salt, if you have a starch, if you have a meat, if you have, and then how long does it take to prepare all those things? Well, if you catch a rabbit in a trap, well, you're going to have to skin it. And if you, kill a deer, you're going to have to let the blood, this isn't an instant thing. So stew is not magical. And I just thought that was funny. So how realistic about food are you in your writing? I wonder if you're a writer. And then foraging. So I have a really great article I found from, this is on foodtank.com, which I'd never seen before. I must have been searching for something. But it's native North American foods with stories to tell. There's people I follow on social media who are really good at foraging and will show things on videos that are great. I have someone I follow on TikTok that I'll put down below as well. But it's basically like if there's an apocalyptic event and you have to forage for food and know what's dangerous and know what's edible, a lot of us are gonna die. This is good practice, right? Persimmons, wild rice, dulse if you live up in eastern Canada, blue camas if you're in the Pacific Northwest, squash, flower buds, cranberries. Just like really neat history, like little mini histories of food and whose diets they worked in, and that just, besides the fact that it's useful and it makes me feel more secure to know these things, it's also just really grounding to feel like you know the roots of foods rather than just, hey, I can get this at Trader Joe's, hey, I can get this at Ralph's, like processed, someone else is doing all that work. And speaking of all that work, one of the articles I'm going to put down about food writing is someone explaining why she goes through the trouble of processing her own food. And she says it's because she likes it. Canning, jarring, putting up, all these things you do at the end of the harvest. And that really felt good. If I am ever living in California again, that will be one of the things that I try to do and try to enjoy. So, as it is the end of November, I'm sure wherever you are, you've already put up all those things. But maybe there's still a few stragglers that are preserving things in a different way. And I'd love to hear what you have in your area that you like to preserve or put up, and share a recipe with us. That'd be fun. So this is your food and writing video for a grateful holiday in the US and heading into more holidays soon. Comment if you've got more food writing to recommend. I love a good emotional food essay. And yeah, thanks for stopping by.